There's something about the way our mind moves through the world that has always felt wrong to everyone else. Too fast, too scattered, too intense. They call it a disorder. They say we're distracted, impulsive, unfocused. But you and I both know the truth. We're not broken. We're tuned to a different frequency. While everyone else trudges along the surface, we're picking up signals they can't even hear. Subtle shifts in people's voices, tiny cracks in a plan, micro changes in a market. The emotional temperature of a room the second we walk in. It feels like noise when we don't know how to use it. It feels like a curse when we have no structure to handle it. But once we build a system around it, it starts to look a lot less like chaos and a lot more like an extra sense. Adhd in business, in life, in relationships. It's like being born with a high-gain antenna in a world built for plastic headphones. Of course it's overwhelming. Of course it short-circuits. Of course we melt down when we're forced into tiny boxes with fluorescent lights and just do it this way rules. But those same traits that get us labeled as too much are the exact traits that make us lethal in the right environment. Hyperfocus is not a bug. It's a controlled trance state, a weapon. Emotional intensity is not weakness. It's a radar for truth, a lie detector built into the nervous system. Restlessness is not immaturity. It's raw energy, begging to be forged into action instead of caged in shame. The problem was never our wiring. The problem is that nobody taught us how to build a world where this wiring becomes power instead of punishment. So, let's be brutally honest with ourselves. If we keep trying to live like everyone else, we will keep breaking like everyone else, only harder. Our extrasensory abilities become panic. Our pattern recognition turns into overthinking. Our intuitive hits rot into anxiety because we refuse to move on what we know. You've felt it, haven't you? That split-second flash where you see the outcome before anyone else does. You know which client will flake. You know which partnership is poison. You know which idea has teeth and which one is just pretty noise. And how many times have we ignored that signal, tried to be reasonable, and paid for it later? Our brain is interest-based, not rule-based. Emotion-driven, not obligation-driven. Signal-hungry, not routine-hungry. So if we want to harness these extrasensory abilities, we stop asking, how do I become normal? We start asking, how do I build a life where my abnormal is an advantage? That begins with structure. Not the dead, rigid structure they tried to smother us with, but structure as scaffolding. Rituals that catch us when our mind sprints off the trail. Systems that hold the weight so our intuition can stay sharp instead of burned out. We build external systems so our internal chaos can become clarity. Calendars, alarms, visual boards, checklists. These are not chains. These are exoskeletons. They hold up the work so our mind is free to do what it does best. Scan, sense, anticipate, create. Because here's the truth. Nobody told us. Our extrasensory perception is useless if it never becomes execution. Feeling everything, noticing everything, seeing 10 possible futures at once. That's not power. That's overload. Power is when we can take that flood of information and channel it into one precise, deliberate action. So we break the work down. Ruthlessly. We don't tell our mind, build the empire. We tell it, write the email, launch the test, call the lead, outline the strategy. We turn mountains into steps so our hyperfocus has something clear to lock onto. That's how we turn scattered intuition into results, piece by piece, translated into movement. And let's talk about this extrasensory thing in the only way that actually matters. We feel the room. We sense shifts in energy. We notice patterns, coincidences, micro-expressions, tone changes, trends before they hit the mainstream. You think that's an accident? In business, that's a mutant ability. While others obsess over spreadsheets alone, we're reading the field. We feel when a deal is off. We feel when a market is ripe. We feel when a brand message hits the nerve of the collective. But that level of sensitivity cuts both ways. If we don't protect it, it turns inward. We start reading threat where there is none. We read rejection into silence. We read failure into one quiet day. That's why emotional regulation isn't some soft self-help concept for us. It's survival. Mindfulness, breathwork, grounding, call it whatever you want. It's not about being calm and peaceful for Instagram quotes. It's about sharpening the instrument. It's about clearing static from the channel so the signals we pick up are actually useful, not distorted by fear and shame. When we slow down for 5 minutes of stillness, we're not wasting time. We're recalibrating the radar. And then there's accountability. Our brain loves urgency, loves being seen, loves being challenged. So we stop pretending we're lone wolves. We wire accountability into our systems. A partner who expects the update. A team that relies on our next move. Public goals that would sting if we abandoned them. This is how we hack dopamine. This is how we harness urgency without waiting for disaster. We build the pressure before the deadline. And beneath it all, deeper than any checklist or hack, there's something more dangerous and more sacred: our why. ADHD does not answer to should. It answers to meaning. You want our brain to sit still for 3 hours of deep work. Connect those hours to something that actually matters. Not vague success. Not would be nice. Tie it to the future version of us we refuse to betray. The people we will protect and provide for. The impact we came here to make before this life is over. When our extra senses lock onto a purpose that feels true, resistance starts to break. Suddenly the boring tasks aren't just tasks. They're rituals of devotion. Sacrifices we willingly make in service to the vision we've seen so clearly it haunts our sleep. We are not cursed wanderers. We are hunters in a world of farmers. Farmers repeat. Hunters adapt. Farmers preserve. Hunters pursue. Farmers work the same land. Hunters scan new horizons, track movement, feel patterns. Our ADHD, our sensory overload, our intuition, that's hunter wiring. It wasn't built for cubicles and soul-dead routines. It was built for movement, challenge, risk, exploration, problem-solving in real time. So no, we're not here to be tamed. We're here to be trained. Trained in systems, trained in emotional regulation, trained in protecting our sensitivity instead of numbing it, trained in translating our inner signals into outer results. If we do nothing, this wiring will devour us. We'll drown in unfinished ideas, forgotten commitments, guilty spirals, emotional wreckage. But if we choose to build around it, to construct a life where our strange perception is not mocked but weaponized, we become something rare. A person who feels deeply, sees sharply, moves decisively, and executes relentlessly. So here's the line in the sand. We can keep letting the world convince us we're defective, medicating our instincts, apologizing for our intensity, shrinking our vision so we make everyone else comfortable. Or we can decide that this brain, this sensitivity, this strange extrasensory way of reading the world is the exact edge we need to dominate in a system that never planned for us. Build your routines, design your environment, use your calendar like armor. Break your work into a trail your hyperfocus can follow. Then listen to the instincts, to the patterns, to the quiet, eerie feeling that tells you when something is right and when it is absolutely not. Our mind is not here to be silenced. It is here to be mastered. And once we master it, the very thing they called a disorder becomes the reason we win. Before we move forward, understand this. Everything you just heard isn't meant to stay as inspiration. Inspiration fades. Emotion fades. Even the sharpest insight dissolves if it isn't forged into action. What comes next is the translation layer, the bridge between the world inside your mind and the world you're trying to build with your hands. Because power without a plan collapses. Sensitivity without structure becomes suffering, and raw potential, no matter how intense, means nothing without direction. So now we shift from revelation to execution, from understanding your wiring to weaponizing it, from recognizing your extrasensory abilities to building a life that actually uses them instead of suppressing them. These are the 5 steps that take everything chaotic, intuitive, fast-moving, and overwhelming inside you, and turn it into something controlled, deliberate, and unstoppable. Let's break it down. Step 1. Build the external skeleton, structure that supports power. There is a brutal truth most people will never understand. An ADHD mind with no structure is like a high-powered engine with no chassis. It's fast, reactive, intuitive, capable of absorbing massive amounts of sensory input. But without support, it rips itself apart. And this is why step 1 is non-negotiable. Before you chase mastery, before you try to harness intuition, before you even think about tapping into those extrasensory instincts, you must build the skeleton that carries your power. ADHD is not a just try harder condition. It is a build better scaffolding condition. Your brain is incredible at generating energy, creativity, ideas, signals, and rapid interpretations of the world, but it struggles to hold them. So the first step in transforming this wiring into a weapon is simple. Externalize everything. Everything you normally keep in your head must leave your head. This looks like a visual calendar that tells you where to be and when, so your mind doesn't burn energy remembering. A whiteboard or digital board that keeps your tasks visible so nothing dissolves into the fog. A checklist for repeated processes, morning routine, content workflow, sales cycle, client onboarding, so initiation becomes automatic. A timer or alarm system that snaps your focus into gear without requiring internal motivation. These tools aren't childish. They aren't signs of weakness. They are the exoskeleton for a mind built to hunt, not to store. Most ADHD problems begin at the same bottleneck: task initiation. The mind spins. Ideas pile up. Your radar senses a dozen things at once. Suddenly, everything feels important, and then nothing happens. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain creates lightning faster than it creates order. The external skeleton fixes this. It becomes the order. When you have a clear structure, your intuition and extrasensory awareness stop overwhelming you and start guiding you. The mind becomes free to scan, innovate, observe patterns, and react. Because the structure holds the foundation steady. This is why environment matters more to ADHD than it does to almost anyone else. Your environment is either a performance enhancer or a cognitive landmine. If the room is cluttered, your mind will be cluttered. If your workspace is chaotic, your thoughts scatter. If you are surrounded by noise, distraction, or visual mess, your extrasensory sensitivity amplifies it into overwhelm. So, you design a space that works for your wiring. Minimal visual noise. Only the tools you need within arm's reach. One screen focus whenever possible. Clear zones. This is where I work. This is where I rest. A reset ritual every morning or night to bring order back into the physical world. Structure is not confinement. Structure is liberation. Without structure, your abilities stay volatile. Powerful, yes, but directionless and draining. With structure, they become concentrated, focused, usable, predictable, scalable, profitable. Think of step 1 as building the container that can hold the fire of your mind. Without the container, the fire burns everything around it, including you. With the container, the fire becomes heat, fuel, progression, and creation. Everything that comes later, intuition, extrasensory sensitivity, as if visualization, hyperfocus, emotional mastery. All of it depends on step 1. Structure gives your power a place to land. This is the skeleton that makes the rest of the transformation possible. Build it well, and every other step becomes easier. Build it poorly, and even the sharpest mind falls back into chaos. This is where the transformation begins. Step 2. Translate signals into small, ruthless actions. If step 1 is the skeleton, step 2 is the bloodstream. It is the movement, the translation, the bridge between what you sense and what you actually do. And this is where most ADHD minds collapse. Not because they lack intelligence, creativity, or intuition, but because they drown in the gap between insight and action. Your mind is a constant storm of information. You absorb patterns before others consciously notice them. You feel emotional shifts in people, like temperature changes. You spot opportunities, risks, and inconsistencies in business long before the data catches up. But here's the catch. Your brain gives you the whole picture all at once. The idea, the potential, the worst-case scenario, the blueprint, the fear, the excitement, the possibility, all layered together. This is why your brain often locks up. It's not paralysis, it's overload. Your internal radar hits too many signals simultaneously, and because none of them are separated into steps, the system jams. The only way to cut through this is to break everything, and I mean everything, into small, clear, painfully obvious actions. This is the art of ruthless reduction. When your brain says, build this entire business model, you respond with, open a blank doc and write the first idea. When your intuition says, this partnership feels wrong, you respond with, send a message asking for clarification on one detail. When your creative flash says, this marketing idea is gold, you respond with, draft the first sentence of the pitch. You never tackle the mountain, you tackle the next foothold. Because the ADHD mind can hyperfocus brilliantly, but only when it has a target. A blurred mountain is too big to lock onto. A single stone is easy to hit. This is why breaking tasks down isn't optional. It is a neurological necessity. Let's go deeper. Your extrasensory processing often gives you solutions faster than you can articulate them. You may instinctively know the right move, but your brain hasn't broken it down into linear steps yet. So the insight remains stuck inside you, powerful but unusable. The solution? Turn instinct into micro-action immediately. The longer an idea sits in the mind, the heavier it becomes. The heavier it becomes, the more intimidating it feels. The more intimidating it feels, the more guilt attaches itself to it. And the more guilt attaches, the more impossible the action becomes. Small tasks bypass guilt. Small tasks bypass fear. Small tasks bypass executive dysfunction entirely. They give your mind a clean path forward, a simple, sharp objective that all your intuition, energy, and hyperfocus can lock onto. This is also why the 2-minute rule is lethal for ADHD. If it takes 2 minutes or less, do it instantly. This forces you into movement, not rumination. It turns initiation from a mountain into a reflex. Pair this with time-boxed sprints, 10 to 20 minutes with a timer, and you recreate the urgency your brain was designed for. These micro-deadlines flip the hyperfocus switch on command, letting you bypass the wandering stage and jump straight into engagement. Another powerful tactic is to ask yourself one question every time your brain starts spiraling. What is the smallest physical action I can take next? Not, what should I do today? Not, how do I finish this project? Not, how do I do this perfectly? No, one tiny physical action, one movement forward. Because once you start moving, your ADHD mind activates. Momentum is dopamine. Dopamine is fuel. Fuel is clarity. And clarity is execution. When you learn this skill, this relentless reduction of ideas into the smallest actionable pieces, you effectively build a translator between your extrasensory mind and the physical world. Your intuition becomes strategy. Your insights become steps. Your sensitivity becomes precision. Your creativity becomes output. This step is how you turn inner power into outer results. Without step 2, you become a visionary who never builds. With step 2, you become a force who executes relentlessly. One clear action at a time. This is how the storm in your mind becomes a map instead of a prison. Step 3. Train the radar, emotional regulation plus mindfulness. If step 1 builds the skeleton and step 2 creates the movement, step 3 is the calibration of your most powerful and dangerous tool, your internal radar, your extrasensory perception, your emotional sensitivity, your ability to feel messages before they're spoken, sense patterns before they're visible, and detect shifts in energy before anyone else realizes something has changed. This gift is your edge. But untreated, unregulated, and untrained, it becomes your downfall. ADHD heightens sensation. It sharpens intuitiveness. It amplifies emotional frequency. You hear the world louder than most, not with your ears, but with your nervous system. You don't just notice data, you feel it. But when that radar is clogged with stress, shame, overwhelm, or emotional static, it stops giving you clarity and starts feeding you distortion. You mistake anxiety for intuition. You read danger in safe situations. You sense rejection where there is none. You catastrophize because the mind is scanning too much, too fast, with no grounding. This is why emotional regulation is not optional. It is mission critical. Your radar is either your oracle or your saboteur. Step 3 teaches you to tune it. Let's be blunt. An ADHD mind without emotional regulation is like having superhuman hearing in the middle of a screaming crowd. You won't detect the signal. You'll just drown in the noise. But an ADHD mind that has been trained to regulate, even minimally, becomes something extraordinary. It becomes calm enough to hear the truth beneath the chaos. And once you can hear truth again, you can trust your intuition instead of fearing it. This training begins with mindfulness, but not the watered-down Instagram version. We're talking about 5 minutes of pure signal calibration, shutting off the constant sensory fire hose and giving your nervous system a moment to reset. 5 minutes. That's all your brain needs to shift out of chaos mode. Mindfulness for ADHD isn't about becoming still or peaceful. It's about creating clarity in the radar. When the static lowers, your sensitivity becomes accuracy instead of anxiety. Here's what regulation actually looks like in practice. 5 minutes of breathwork every morning. Not to relax, but to straighten the internal compass. When you breathe slowly, deeply, intentionally, your amygdala backs down, your prefrontal cortex steps forward, and suddenly you can think again. A pause practice. Every time your emotions spike, instead of reacting, you build a 10-second wall. Inhale 4 seconds, exhale 6 seconds. This single breath puts the thinking brain back in control and silences emotional distortion. Labeling the emotion. When you say, "This is anxiety," you detach from it. When you say, "This is overwhelm," your brain stops treating it like a threat. Naming is taming. Labeling is grounding. Sensory resets throughout the day. Cold water on your face. A quick walk outside. A glass of water. A single minute of stillness. These are not small acts. They are cognitive recalibrations. Breaks every 60 to 90 minutes. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system processes more data than most people. You must empty the buffer or it overflows. Compassion toward your own intensity. This is the deepest piece. Your emotions are not flaws. They are signals. The more you fight them, the louder they scream. The more you acknowledge them, the quieter and more precise they become. Training your radar means teaching your nervous system that it doesn't have to interpret everything as threat. It teaches your intuition to separate truth from fear. It trains your sensitivity to serve you instead of sabotage you. Because once your emotions are controlled, even slightly, your extrasensory abilities lock into place. You can sense which decisions feel aligned, detect red flags, instantly pick up subtle opportunities others miss, use your empathy to read people accurately, feel trends and timing in business, stay ahead of movement instead of reacting late. This is why step 3 matters. A dysregulated radar sees ghosts. A trained radar sees truth. A mastered radar sees the future. And you cannot build a powerful life if your internal signals contradict your external actions. So step 3 takes the storm and tames it. Not by suppressing your emotions, but by sharpening them. When you regulate your nervous system, you're not calming down. You're tuning in. You're refining the instrument. You're clearing the static. You're teaching your senses to reveal opportunity instead of threat. This is where your extrasensory gifts stop overwhelming you and start guiding you. This is the moment your intuition becomes a weapon instead of a weakness. And from this point forward, every step you take becomes sharper, smarter, and far more dangerous to your limitations. Step 4. Engineer urgency and accountability, the Hunter system. If steps 1 through 3 build the foundation, step 4 is the ignition switch. It is the moment you stop waiting for motivation and start manufacturing the very conditions your ADHD brain thrives under. Because here is the truth most people never figure out. ADHD does not activate under comfort. It activates under meaning, novelty, pressure, and pursuit. Your brain is not wired like a passive observer. It's wired like a hunter. Hunters do not move because a calendar reminder says, "It would be a good idea to start this." Hunters move because something in them senses urgency, a pulse in the environment, a target in sight, a window that will not stay open forever. So if you want to master your ADHD, you can't rely on motivation. You must engineer urgency. You must create accountability. You must design pressure that wakes the hunter up without destroying your life. This is the secret most neurotypicals miss entirely. ADHD isn't a lack of discipline. It's a lack of activation. It's a misalignment between how we're built and the environments we've been shoved into. Give an ADHD mind a real challenge, a deadline, a person depending on them, or a high-stakes outcome, and suddenly the fog clears. Focus sharpens. Hyperfocus ignites. Time slows. Execution becomes effortless. This is why crisis makes you powerful, but calm makes you complacent. The mistake? Waiting for crisis. Waiting for the last minute. Waiting for adrenaline to save you again, because that works, until one day it doesn't. So step 4 teaches you to control the conditions instead of being controlled by them. You create artificial urgency, not to manipulate yourself, but to activate your wiring intentionally. This looks like giving yourself mini deadlines throughout the day, setting timers for 10 to 20-minute sprints, promising a deliverable to someone by a specific time, announcing your goal publicly, so your reputation is on the line, scheduling accountability, check-ins that force movement, creating consequences or rewards that trigger dopamine, setting up co-working sessions, virtual or in-person, so you're on stage. You aren't creating stress. You're creating structure-fueled pressure, the kind that sharpens your instincts instead of overwhelming them. The ADHD brain needs a target to lock onto. Urgency creates that target. You design accountability as a support system, not a punishment. Accountability taps into the strongest ADHD motivators: social expectation, responsibility, visibility. The desire to not let someone down, the charge of being watched, the excitement of being needed. When you know someone is waiting for your update, your brain treats the task differently. It becomes tangible. It becomes urgent. It becomes real. This is why accountability partners, coaches, peer groups, and team structures are insanely powerful for ADHD adults. They create external momentum when internal momentum fades. This isn't weakness, it's neurobiology. Even elite performers use external accountability because it works. You gamify everything. This isn't childish, this is strategy. The ADHD mind is dopamine-driven, not duty-driven. You respond to challenge, reward, novelty, competition, and measurable progress. So you build systems around streaks, points, levels, timers, progress, bars, scoreboards, public declarations, rewards for completion, penalties for avoidance. This turns work from a burden into a chase, something your hunter brain embraces naturally. You design your environment as a trigger for action. You create a workspace that signals, "I am on the hunt," a morning ritual that snaps you into readiness, a pre-work routine that cues hyperfocus, a visual board that displays the targets for the day, music, lighting, scents, or tools that make your brain shift gears, a countdown timer that says, "Move now or miss your window." The goal is simple: turn initiation from a struggle into a reflex. You create consequences that matter. ADHD responds to stakes, not imaginary stakes, real ones. So you tie action to something meaningful: money, reputation, momentum, community, future identity, long-term mission, people you care about. You are far more likely to take action if the outcome touches your identity or your values. This is why writing down your why isn't motivational fluff. It's neurological fuel. The deeper truth behind step 4: ADHD is not a disorder of attention. It's a disorder of activation, a disorder of ignition, a disorder of timing. Your brain is built for heightened states, states where instinct, intuition, and pattern recognition all align. Step 4 teaches you to manufacture that alignment intentionally. It teaches you to weaponize urgency instead of waiting for disaster. It teaches you to build accountability that holds your vision steady when your emotions waver. It teaches you to create the conditions under which your brain performs like a machine of precision instead of a swirl of chaos. In other words, you stop being a slave to adrenaline and start becoming a commander of it. When you master step 4, you no longer wait for pressure. You become the pressure. You generate it. You control it. You use it. And that is when the hunter wakes up on command, ready, focused, locked in, unstoppable. Step 5. Anchor everything to a purpose that feels true. If the first 4 steps build your system, your structure, your momentum, and your activation, then step 5 is the soul of the entire transformation. The reason any of this works at all. Because the truth is simple, brutal, and unavoidable. The ADHD mind does not obey logic. It obeys meaning. You can build systems. You can break tasks down. You can regulate your emotions. You can engineer urgency and accountability. But without a purpose, without something that feels like destiny, identity, mission, your brain will slip through your fingers. It will wander. It will rebel. It will collapse under boredom and drift into the fog. Purpose is not a luxury for you. Purpose is the operating system. The ADHD mind is interest-based, significance-driven, emotionally fueled, meaning-oriented. If something feels irrelevant, your brain discards it. If something feels empty, your attention dies. If something feels disconnected from who you are becoming, your internal resistance skyrockets. But when something matters to you at a soul level, when it aligns with your identity, your values, and your vision, your brain becomes unstoppable. Hyperfocus ignites. Discipline becomes natural. Fear shrinks. Avoidance evaporates. Time bends around your determination. This is why step 5 is your anchor. It transforms your abilities from scattered potential into a coherent force. First, define your North Star, not the sanitized motivational version, the real one, the one you feel in your bones, the one that scares you because of how much you want it. the one you hesitate to say out loud. Ask yourself, who am I trying to become? What future version of me am I refusing to betray? What impact am I here to make before this life ends? What would I build if fear stopped lying to me? Your North Star is not a goal. It's an identity. It's a direction. It's the future you're walking toward, even on days when you're crawling. Write it down. Say it out loud. Feel it. This is the fuel that powers every other step. Second, connect your daily actions to that identity. The ADHD mind engages when it feels like every action matters. So you must create meaning in the mundane. Cleaning your workspace isn't chores. It's preparing the war room for the next battle. Working on your business isn't tasks. It's building the empire you promised yourself. Studying or practicing isn't effort. It's sharpening the blade your future depends on. Finishing a project isn't work. It's stepping closer to the life you saw for yourself that one night when you felt clarity in your chest. Everything you do is symbolic. Everything is connected to the mission. This is how you trick your brain into giving you consistent power, by giving every action a purpose. Third, use identity questions to keep yourself aligned. Every day, ask yourself, did my actions today respect the person I'm becoming? If yes, your brain receives dopamine, progress, momentum. If no, your brain receives guilt, and guilt is useless. So instead of shame, redirect. What's the smallest action I can take right now to realign with my identity? Identity is the compass. Small actions are the steps. Purpose is the path. Fourth, combine data with intuition. Your extrasensory abilities become unstoppable when they work with structure, not against it. Your intuition tells you the direction. Your data confirms the path. Your structure keeps you consistent. Your identity keeps you hungry. This integration is where ADHD becomes advantage. You sense patterns quickly. You feel timing instinctively. You recognize opportunities by emotional resonance. When purpose anchors your instincts, you move through the world with frightening accuracy. Fifth, understand the deeper truth. Purpose is regulation. Meaning stabilizes your mind. Purpose reduces anxiety. Having a mission strengthens emotional resilience. A clear identity quiets internal chaos. A vision reduces indecision. Purpose is not just spiritual, it's neurological. The brain loves clarity. It loves direction. It loves narrative. And when you give your ADHD brain a narrative it believes in, it stops fighting you and starts fighting for you. The real power of step 5 is this. All your strengths, the intuition, the extra sensitivity, the hyperfocus, the creative leaps, the emotional depth, become sharpened when directed toward a mission you actually care about. Purpose turns scattered lightning into a lightning bolt. Purpose turns overwhelm into focus. Purpose turns sensitivity into awareness. Purpose turns chaos into fuel. Purpose turns your life into a trajectory, not a cycle. This is what anchors you when your mind tries to drift. This is what pulls you forward when emotion storms inside you. This is what keeps you sharp when the world tries to dull your edges. This is what gives you stamina when your interest naturally rises and falls. Purpose is the gravitational center of every system you build. Without it, everything collapses. With it, everything aligns. Step 5 is where you stop trying to survive your wiring and start using it to create the life you were always meant for. There comes a moment in every transformation where the path stops being theory and becomes a vow. You've reached that moment now. You've dissected your wiring. You've seen the truth behind your chaos. You've taken the pieces the world called disorder and revealed them for what they are, weapons waiting to be forged. And now you understand what most people never will. Your mind isn't something to fix, it's something to command. Structure is your armor. Small actions are your blade. Emotional regulation is your shield. Urgency is your ignition. Purpose is the fire in your chest that refuses to go out. These steps aren't just strategies. They're the blueprint for turning your sensitivity, your intensity, your extrasensory perception into an advantage so sharp it becomes a form of dominance. Not dominance over others, but dominance over your old patterns, your limitations, your drifting, your doubt. This is the moment you stop apologizing for the way you're built. This is the moment you choose to stop fighting your nature and start using it. This is the moment you stop surviving and start hunting. Because the world wasn't made for minds like yours. It was made by people who feared them. And now that you know who you are, now that you understand the system, the structure, the power, the purpose, nothing can stop you except your willingness to fall back asleep. So stay awake, stay intentional, stay dangerous. Build the skeleton, translate the signals, train the radar, engineer the urgency, anchor your purpose, and every single day step further into the future you were born to create. This is your mind. This is your gift. This is your rise. Now go, and don't look back.